Stasis is dead. Long live Stasis. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today Evan has asked me to play Stasis. And this is going to be a little bit of a weird deck tech because we're actually going to look at 3 different deck lists today. It was a bit of a journey to get to the list that I'm actually going to play. I'm not going to lie to you. Stasis is a bit of a unique Magic card in that it has the ability to just take away a physical portion of the turn cycle and remove untap steps from players. You don't get to untap your lands, you don't get to untap your creatures, and this is a very powerful prison effect. Now this is supposed to be a short-term measure though. If we look at this card, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this unless you pay 1 blue. So you can play a Stasis, and then, each turn you're going to tap one of your lands in order to continue this soft lock. Now, your opponent can still play new lands, cast new spells, attack with new creatures. Stasis on its own doesn't stop all of that nonsense. So Stasis is never a card that is going to win the game on its own. And that has always been one of the biggest problems with Stasis in Legacy, is that it requires a large amount of support to work. Now, let's rewind to earlier this year for decklist number 1. This is a decklist that my good friend Bosch and Roll played many months ago at this point. I think this was about January. And this was the last Stasis League he played before sweet, innocent White Plume Adventurer got banned in Legacy. Now, this was a time where a secondary deck got absolutely destroyed by bannings. White Plume Adventurer was just too strong for Legacy, unquestionably, and the mono-white initiative deck list was just so consistent. It needed to go. The initiative made Stasis work. Now, specifically, White Plume Adventurer says, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, untap a creature you control. And if you've completed a dungeon, you get to untap all your creatures. What that meant was Stasis plus White Plume Adventurer, on its own, could potentially win the game, as you have a creature that you can repeatedly untap. Or, if you had a mana dork, you could repeatedly untap that mana dork to pay for Stasis, while every turn, because you had the initiative, you got to go deeper into the Undercity, which would unquestionably win you the game over time. And in this specific shell, Stasis got to be one of the best tempo cards of all time, and it was pretty legitimately good. Was it the best thing to be doing in the format? No, that was the mono-white initiative deck, clearly, but it was very respectable. And it was one of the few times in Stasis's Legacy career that it was a real contender. Now, this is the deck list that Evan initially sent to me. But it came with the caveat, I know it needs some love. There's some stuff wrong here. So Evan's idea was to turbo into Stasis, and to use Root Maze and Stasis as a way to hard lock your opponent from ever casting any spells. And this is the decklist as it was originally submitted, and my problem with this is that it just can't win the game. And I tried. I goldfished a bunch, played a couple of practice games, and the deck can't win. It has some cute combos in it, like the idea of using Forsaken City to get around the downside of Stasis. That's pretty legit. Root Maze and Stasis, it's cool. But ultimately, this is a deck that is seeking to win with a black Vice, as your Urza Saga tokens are going to end up tapped and then not untap, right? So this whole deck's game plan is find a Root Maze, find a Stasis, find an Urza Saga, wait 3 turns, find a Black Vice, hope your opponent has no way of getting other cards out of hand. How many turns is it going to take to actually kill an opponent with a Black Vice? And the very first thing I started doing was trying to add win cons into this deck list. But as I tried to add more cards, I started looking at things like Derevi, Imperial Tactician. I started looking at Mana Dorks. Ultimately, what I found was that I just couldn't put together something that I could expect to reasonably win games of Magic the Gathering. And that sucks, but that was the conclusion that I came to. And I kind of sat on this deck for a couple of weeks. I came back to it a couple of times, and then in doing some research today, I finally found something that I think is going to work. And it is a very different direction from the original deck that Evan submitted. But I think someone else figured out how to actually make Stasis work now that White Plume Adventurer is banned. Now, today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, Cool Stuff Inc., as well as Eminence Gaming. If you've ever thought about checking out CEDH, now is the time. Eminence Gaming is doing some awesome events. I'll be going to one in Atlanta in November, and I'm really looking forward to it. And if you're looking for paper Magic cards, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. Okay, so here we go. Evan's approach was, I want to go faster to lock out my opponent before they can do things. And I think the approach instead needs to be, I'm going to go and slow the game down. I am going to play the control game for a little while, and then I will eventually use Stasis as a combo card with Ral Zarek. This allows you to tap target permanent and untap another target permanent. And what's kind of cool about this in this specific build is that you get to tap your opponent's lands so they don't untap with Stasis, so they can't build up some mana. But you also have things that you want to untap. Like, you'd be perfectly unhappy. You would be perfectly happy untapping the One Ring for some additional cards, or untapping your Delighted Halfling to use it again. And guess what? That Delighted Halfling can make your assorted control cards be uncounterable. And that's really cool. And one of the other things about Stasis is that it was a huge advantage to play the Stasis if you held the initiative. Well, the same is true if you are the Monarch. Like, play 4th Eorlingas, even just for 1 token, attack, become the Monarch, play a Stasis, draw a few extra cards for a few turn cycles while making your land drops. Cool, you eventually lose the Stasis and do awesome things afterwards. Like, I really like the design of this deck list, and it also features some spice like Cosmic Rebirth. You choose a permanent card in your graveyard. If it has mana value 3 or less, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't, you can put it into your hand, and then you gain 3 life. So guess what? You can have your untapped step, play some stuff, move to your end step, play a Cosmic Rebirth, throw a Stasis into play while gaining some life and making it so that your opponent doesn't get their untapped step. This is cool. And if we compare the average card quality in this deck list to what Evan submitted originally, like, these are reasonable Magic the Gathering cards supporting Stasis instead of, I am going to play Root Maze in my deck to support Stasis. I'm going to play Chain of Vapor main deck to support Stasis. And I think that means that we have a much better chance at actually winning some games. So, have I totally gone away from the original vision? Yes. But I think this is our best chance of getting something that works. And this pilot has a lot of results with Stasis over time, so I'm going to kind of lean on their technology here. And Evan, I hope this league ends up being enjoyable to you. Shoot me a message if it isn't. All right, let's battle. Okay, I lied. I want to talk about one more thing. There was one other card that I was thinking about putting into the deck list, but I decided that I wasn't going to be the person to test something wild for a change, and I was going to just try to play the established deck so that I could understand it. But I think Minsc and Boo conceptually is pretty interesting with Stasis, right? Because you play Minsc and Boo, you attack for 4. On your next upkeep, you make a new hamster, plus attack for 4 again, or alternatively, fling the one you made last turn. I think this could be another direction to take it, and I think this is perfectly viable as well. So this hand is a question of, like, how much do I believe in the top of the deck to present me with a reasonable game of Magic the Gathering? Let's take a look at this deck list. I would say any of these 12 draws would be great. But I don't really know that I have a plan here. I have no ability to cantrip, and if my opponent is a combo deck that requires more than Force of Negation to stop, it's not going to work. I think we're going to ship this. We're going to keep this one. I don't need a ton of red here. I'm going to try throwing back Plateau. But, like, Plateau doesn't contribute to blue, blue, green, green for Uro. But we're unfortunately a little light on early game interaction here, outside of the Force. Hopefully that's fine. Okay, hand's great. Let's remove this stop. Add that from when I was playing with trolls and needed to swamp cycle in my upkeep. You may brainstorm. Yeah, we may be settling in for a long, like, control mirror here. But I don't know for sure yet. I don't think I'm going to fire off my Brainstorm yet. I think it's unlikely that we're playing against Orcish Bowmasters after seeing Flooded Strand. Like, it's not impossible that this is still just a blue-black deck, but I think I'm not going to actively play around Bowmaster yet. Most of the blue-black decks would have made some sort of initial play in the first couple of turns. Let's see if I get super punished. I do not. Now, I can still be playing against a combo deck. Like, that is still very possible. I think an Uro can go back here. I can probably throw back a Force of Will here. And we'll go ahead and fetch for, I think, a Tropical Island. We'll be looking for one more Trop at some point. I'm not expecting to have to Prismatic Ending in this turn cycle. So let's just make another land drop. Up to 22. Okay, great. Fetch land specifically is quite good. So this is effectively 3 cards in graveyard. Ponder is the 4th card in graveyard. Yeah. I do need to get Trop, which is keeping me off of red for a couple cards. Which is slightly awkward, but hopefully acceptable. Snapcaster. Volcanic Island is interesting. I really just want a fetch land specifically. I'm going to try to fish for that. Negative. I'd also kind of like another Brainstorm. Maybe the Snapcaster Mage is worth keeping because, like, Prismatic Ending and Swords are probably medium. But, you know, there's still a chance that we're playing against something like Cephalid Breakfast and, like, these cards are relevant. It's really looking like this is just a Jeskai Control deck list. It's probably 4th Eorlingas. Oh, it's Comet. Sure. White, blue, green. Don't have red yet to just Prismatic Ending that. Let's Force of Negation that. It's a good Force of Will back if my opponent has it. Oh, and they do. Okay. Now there's variance here, but this can go wild pretty quickly. There's a 5. So they're just going to damage me. Seems good. Ral Zarek is not castable. Uro is. Guess it's free to play around days. Another reason to Force of Negation, other than the obvious, is that this just gave me that last card I needed in graveyard. Alright. Okay, that is a great draw. Know that our Stasis is going to be pretty bad while my opponent controls a Comet. So that's a thing. It's another 5. This does creatures or players, right? Creature or player. So they've marked damage on Uro and are going to Lightning Bolt Uro down. God, I need a Volcanic Island so bad. That plateau from the beginning of the game is haunting me. I don't regret getting rid of it, by the way, because, like, blue, blue, green, green for Uro was, like, very... Wow. I'm super surprised to see this island cycled when my opponent is on 4. Oh, I see. Mystic Sanctuary just gets it back. All right, JK. I take it back. Yeah, and that just puts it right on top of deck. Making it castable next turn. Red mana, Stasis. I cannot play that while Comet is in play. So not having a red source is keeping me off of 1, 2, 3 different relevant plays. Oh, that's rough. I guess some portion of the time Comet kills itself and I could play Stasis, but that feels incredibly risky. I think my cards just haven't lined up well here. Okay, Comet kills itself. Is honestly lucky. I would like to draw red to play Ral Zarek and Stasis. That's the dream. Come on. I need it. Damn it. Am I going to play this forest? I think I have other things that I am likely to brainstorm back. I think that's fine. Okay, that one can eat a prismatic ending. That's fine. Don't you do it. God damn it. No. So that results. Please? Please? No whammy? No whammy? Holy shit. Okay. So, do I put my opponent on a 1-turn clock or do I kill Narset? I think I kill Narset. My opponent has 7 cards. Narset. 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 Face. Face. Alright. We are the pretty princess. I get to draw additional cards. And that's another argument for actually just getting rid of the Narset. Now my opponent could just like absolutely 4th Eorlingas me back right now. And take the Monarch back. Terminus, Supreme Verdict are reasonable cards that my opponent could be playing as well. We'll see. Okay, they're fishing. I do only have 10 points of damage showing. Like, that does mean my opponent can't fetch off the Ponder if they can't kill everything this turn, but it's also pretty reasonable for my opponent to just play, like, ending swords and reduce the damage that they're taking, which is one of the arguments for going face the previous turn. This is 5 mana. Yep. My opponent will probably attack with 1 to take the Monarch back, and then just take some losses in combat. Alright. My opponent has 7 cards in hand to my effective 0 cards, but hopefully we top deck well. So I can attempt to defend the Monarch by holding back 2 of these. I think I would rather trade cards back and forth and try to kill my opponent. Like, I would like my opponent to be on about a 2-turn clock here. My opponent already also has 7 cards. Like, they've got stuff to do. Stasis. Stasis is a mighty interesting thing to do at this stage of the game. Like, it keeps my opponent from deploying a bunch of these cards. Yeah, I am intrigued. Alright, no fetch land to immediately shuffle. Alright. 1 honorable knight token down. 2nd honorable knight token down. Comet. It could be hard to take the initiative back now. And again, if my opponent has Planeswalkers, Stasis is rough. Oh, they returned Prismatic Ending. 3rd honorable knight token down. Yeah, glad I got the damage in with them, rather than trying to hold them back here. Whatever, we'll just draw another. Or, hold on. Does this mana base have Mystic Sanctuary? No. Shame. Alright, so my opponent is the Monarch. Life's bad. Misty Rainforest. Please. My Ura's in exile too. This game is going to turn around in favor of my opponent real fast. Alright, what does Comet do? Squirrels. Yep. Alright, so my opponent's just putting the pedal to the metal trying to get me dead. That's perfectly reasonable. And they get extra cards. Well, I mean, it technically has points of power. I'll play it, but it doesn't feel like what I'm looking for right now, you know? Oh, this is good enough to get a brainstorm in response. Actually, I don't know that it's good enough to get a brainstorm in response so much as my opponent was planning on brainstorming anyway. It's also possible that my opponent is supposed to brainstorm on their own turn, because 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 damage just kills me. But they don't know that I'm running on empty. So, I mean, they probably suspect, though, right? Maybe not Stasis specifically, but... Alright. That's a 6, so my opponent gets to do this 2 more times. What's a 3? Returns Prismatic Ending, then gets to do this again. Making squirrels. So they Prismatic Ending this out of the way and put me to 4. Uh-huh. Hey, what do you think the chances are that my opponent has no counter spells? Asking for a friend. This is a reasonable play. It feels aggressive, but it does get me dead some portion of the time this turn. What, 2, 4, 6, 8 puts me to 2. Yeah, and if they hit one of the Lava Axe ones, it's just better. I don't know if that play is fully necessary. Like, it seems like you can just hold open a bunch of mana and I just die. Alright. Let's find something. By something, I mean probably exactly 4th Eorlingas. No. You know, if Comet wasn't there, I could stasis all those things. Alright, I am going to take a minute and I'm going to think about my sideboarding. If I am probably going to board Stasis out, I should play Stasis here. And plant the idea in my opponent's head that they have to deal with that. But I think I'm probably leaving Stasis in. So I am going to concede, because the Comet activation probably kills me too. So I am probably interested in Blasts and Fluster and Supreme Verdict. I am less interested in Swords to Plowshares in particular. Because, like, 4th Eorlingas is the sort of thing that I really, really, really need to answer. And Swords doesn't answer a Comet either. This would be 61. I can potentially go down a Force of Will or Force of Negation, given that I am boarding in a pile of different counter spells. Cosmic Rebirth is a permanent? Yeah. That's significantly worse here. Like, that's a land drop in this matchup most of the time, because, like, these creatures go to exile. I think that one goes. Let's try this. These are sure lands and spells. I don't think I want to fight this hard to make my land drops here. Like, I can do a turn 2 brainstorm, and anytime I miss on lands, like, I just instantly lose the game. And I specifically need 2 lands. Or at least 1 fetch land and another cantrip. I think I just ship this one. And I'm presented with the same hand again. I said no the first time. The answer is still no. Okay, this is reasonable. I don't get to pitch cast a Force of Negation here. And I'm not expecting Prismatic Ending to be good early. I'm going to keep a bunch of lands in Uro and hope to top deck either early cantrips or a Haymaker. But, okay. That is at least a threat I can play out. And, like, any threat matters because then I can pressure a Narset or Comet that's played out, or even a Teferi. Well, okay. That was not necessarily on my bingo card for today. Let's do some fetching. Both of these need to be green, which does mean Tropical Island. Why am I fetching? Why am I doing this at sorcery speed? The answer is, so Brainstorm Counterbalance doesn't mess with me. My opponent can't Prismatic Ending in Endurance. They could Teferi in Endurance. They could do that anyway. So, yeah, I'm going to play around Brainstorm here. I am going to go for non-basics, I think. We'll see if my opponent randomly spikes a 3. Mystic Sanctuary. I'll send a fetch land back into your deck. Alright, white mana is online. And there's a Swords. At some point, I will just Prismatic Ending this counterbalance out of the way. Is that right now? Like, cast Ponder as the bait spell, and then Prismatic Ending X's 2? That seems reasonable. Ugh, just randomly spiked Brainstorm. Actual Effectual Counterspell, or could be bad here, but I think this is my moment. This seems like Plateau. Plateau doesn't help cast this Uro, though. Tundra? Tundra. So now we will attempt the Prismatic Ending. Okay, it does get exiled. Again, I'm very low on gas at this point. Like, life's not good. That random Swords to Plowshares going back on top means that this Uro isn't as good as I would like it to be either. Okay. Do I try to feed Delighted Halfling to Swords to Plowshares? Yes, I believe I do. It is a dress down. I assume that's just cantripping here. Sure. Alright, mission succeeded. And I'm assuming that this is a fair card. I'm not expecting Phyrexian Dreadnought to just come in and fuck my shit up. We'll see, though. God, 4th Eorlingas is such a scary, like, format-defining card. Like, the fact that control decks can just, like, have a hasty monster is so scary. And, like, that it's also card advantage. I just feel like I'm dead every time my opponent casts that and it resolves. I think this is end of their turn endurance rather than going towards the Uro immediately. Maybe right now, actually. Because now Hardcast Force of Will isn't live. I think I like that. Slightly awkward for Prismatic Ending. Sorcery Speed answers, but not cleanly trading with Force of Will sounds nice. Goodbye, Graveyard. My opponent now has red mana for 4th Eorlingas. I can at least take out a creature when they attack, though. Yeah, there's the Sorcery Speed answer that I was talking about. Let's do the whole Burrow thing here. That's a bit of a weird one. So that stops me from drawing the card and getting the life, but it... Okay. A Hydroblast. Sure. I thought what was going to happen was my opponent was just going to let it hit play and then Swords to Plowshares or Prismatic ending it while denying a card draw. I was wrong, though. Don't do it. Don't do it. God, this card's so good. Not in a negative way, like it's too good, but holy fuck. Like, the fact that control decks just get to ball like this now is impressive. Oh, no. 5. Blue, blue, green, green. And 5. Like, how scary is it when my opponent can just switch into... Yeah, like, exactly this, into Force of Will tempo mode. Like, they just pitched a draw 3, because this is just 6 damage attached to a draw card every turn. So I'm down to 9. My opponent gets another card draw. And the fact that, like, 4th Eorlingas is just so good in multiples is disgusting. Oh no. I could get punished for not playing my land drop. A Spell Pierce, sure. I mean, Spell Pierce is very good right now because it stops tap out 4th Eorlingas. But at this point, with cantrips off, 6 damage in play, my opponent being the Monarch, and 4th Eorlingas not being lethal anymore, I think I am comfortable conceding. GG. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and I personally keep all of my deck lists for every format on this site. I love that I can go and sort them by types and tags if I need to. There's a lot of different viewing options. It can give you some math about your mana symbol, your curve, and you can even playtest and do sample opening hands with it. Check this site out if you haven't before. It's awesome. All right, we're here to party. This probably needs to go up. We've entered all range mode, and I'm now standing. We've got a Delighted Halfling in play. I get to play an Uro on turn 2. This probably is Tundra, if I were to guess. I might want to answer that. Card's good. Probably playing against like the green-white Reclaimer deck with like Knight of the Reliquary. I think this goes down. I don't think I need plateau right now. I think the blue matters. A little weird because I have double Delighted Halfling, but I already have a Taiga in hand. It's not weird at all. So we'll play the second Halfling. And these adorable little halflings are gonna like be the beatdown. Like the way this is curving out, next turn, a good portion of the time I don't use these to do anything other than attack. Although now that my opponent has wastelanded me once, that has immediately changed. Cosmic Rebirth. Cool. Let's Uro though. Which is uncounterable, by the way. Just as a bonus. I absolutely drop in the extra land. We've got 3 cards in graveyard towards that. Oh, also, sorry, my chair's in the background. Much better. A whopping 1 point of damage. Let's fine-tune this a little bit here. That should be a little better. My opponent has black, so Orcish Bowmasters is on the table. Oh, I don't like that. I don't have true white mana right now. I only have white mana for creatures, and that like definitely matters in case I draw one specific card in my deck. Rough. Yeah, Delighted Halfling is like very good, but you can definitely feel the difference between it and like a Birds of Paradise sometimes. Okay, opponent takes some damage there. How dare you? How dare you? I only had 3 cards in graveyard. I couldn't bring back Uro. Wait, mana. Fuck me. I'm convinced the Magic Online Shuffler has a sense of humor. There's no other way. Okay, there's a Bowboy. Which I cannot remove. And I'm not going to be able to Cosmic Rebirth back this Delighted Halfling. I may stumble over my own mana and die. Yeah, Delighted Halfling, better versus Orcish Bowmasters than a traditional mana dork. However, Bowmasters, still damn good. My opponent can probably take damage one more time, but they can probably be picky about it. They're going to have a decent number of fetch lands and other shuffle effects in their deck. Okay. Are we wastelanding here? Oh. If my opponent is going for Yavimaya specifically, I'm going to treat that as something relatively threatening to me. Sure. They probably have crop rotation held up, like they specifically wanted to get Yavimaya. So I play Stasis. My opponent can get slowed down by that. I don't think I can support the Stasis right now. Actually, hold on. Let me think about this again. I guess me missing my next untap step would be pretty bad. Like, if I tap 2 mana sources for Stasis, I lose out on my ability to, like, cantrip into a white source to have swords as an out for Merit Lage. God damn, okay. I lose 2 lands this turn. If my opponent wants to do it, because like they can just knight, sacrifice, save the Bojuka Bog, which is now a forest, wasteland this Taiga, and I cry myself to sleep. Okay, sure. Yeah. I can see the writing on the wall now. We're done. So we're playing against some sort of green-white mid-range deck list, probably like the green-white Reclaimer, green-white Depths deck list. They also have black for Bowmasters and maybe some other removal. You know, once black is in the deck list, things like Assassin's Trophy are also going to be on the table. I think that I like Cast into the Fire. It is very reasonable, like a single card answer to a Bowmasters. I think I like Supreme Verdict. Don't know that I want to go as far as Torpor Orb here. And that might be honestly all that I'm doing. Flusterstorm is a little interesting, but it's pretty narrow. Now, assuming that I can get ahead on board, Stasis is probably not bad here. Like, I don't know that I'm boarding out Stasis, or maybe I'll board out a single copy of it. Like, it's very easy to get into a situation where I can just like stasis a pile of my opponent's cards and just buy some time. I don't have all that many basics. I have 4 basics. I don't have a basic mountain. Good to know. Got 2 cards I'm bringing in. Cosmic Rebirth, getting back a land that gets wastelanded is like legit. I think I'm not getting rid of that. Force of Negation is a little narrow here. It misses a lot of stuff. I think I'm okay getting rid of a Force of Negation and 1 copy of Stasis. Okay. I mean, we have Stasis and Ral Zarek, right? Like, this is the plan. My mana is maybe not going to be the most stable here, but Cosmic Rebirth can, in theory, help out with that. All right, here we go. I don't know that I'm going to be able to operate this game on basics. Because, like, I'm looking at needing green, white, at least blue, blue, red, blue, and single white. Like, it's a lot. Okay. Top deck Prismatic Ending, idiot. Just do it. Nope. I'm gonna play Savannah so I don't have to crack a fetch land. It's possible I'm supposed to just play out another fetch land, though, to better play around Wasteland. But, like, at the same time, I don't super mind being wastelanded, because, like, Cosmic Rebirth is just coming. But maybe I'm supposed to hold off on it as long as humanly possible. Alright, some extra cards drawn with Library. Paying the blood price. What do I not want to see? Something like a Grist, just naturally drawn Grist would be pretty bad. That's annoying. I might blow through my opponent's flagstones this turn. With Swords to Plowshares. Actually, is it better to just get the Safekeeper out? Safekeeper's scarier long term, but would get caught up in something like a Supreme Verdict. I've only got one of those, though. Let's try to take out the Safekeeper. Like, this is such a easy play. Like, sacking this land also just grows this. What if they sack it to that? I guess they're not sacking it to Reclaimer in the next turn cycle. Alright, they are going for it, though. Getting Savannah. I think I need to brainstorm right now. I don't know that the board is going to be clear enough to just play Ral Zarek. Yeah, I think I need to brainstorm. Tundra? Let's make a plan. I don't know that I just made a plan. Teferi can bounce something out of play. Maybe. I don't think Teferi's particularly strong here. I think I'm going to try to keep this Stasis Ral Zarek dream alive. And try to find Supreme Verdict with a Ponder. I need white to make that happen. I guess this is just a green source in respect of Uro. What are we looking at? Those are reasonable Magic the Gathering cards that I think I'm okay drawing. It's not my ideal stuff. We'll say no to shuffle. We will attempt to Prismatic Ending the Elvish Reclaimer, which I imagine that my opponent will save. And then after they save it, next turn I can cast into the fire and kill this. Yep. Okay. Library is good. I just don't think I have time to answer the library right now. Oof. Man, Supreme Verdict is looking good. Okay, they're holding up the Reclaimer. I was hoping they would attack with that, because now Bojuka Bog is up for the purposes of my Cosmic Rebirth, which actually makes my turn way worse. Like, I was planning on Cosmic Rebirth, return a land, play land, or sorry, lands in play, and Taiga, and then cast into the fire. That doesn't get to happen now. So let's do some damage here. The annoying thing is my opponent can just, like, Elvish Reclaimer and tutor up another Flagstones, and, like, tutor up more protection. Yeah, my opponent leaving back the Elvish Reclaimer was very good. Yeah. So I could play a Stasis to just buy a little time. Yeah. Because my opponent's stuff will be mostly tapped. But then that means I don't get to untap next turn. Just all these single target removal spells aren't doing what they're doing. Like, what I want them to do. I think the way I'm ultimately going to win is just by like getting lucky, drawing some lands, 4th Eorlingas, killing my opponent because they went too deep with Sylvan Library. I think I'm dead to a lot of things here. Like, this is already 7 damage on board. So my opponent could just like play another creature. I probably die next turn. My opponent could wasteland me once or twice, and that's probably good enough to beat me as well. Holy shit. Going to 3 feels aggressive. Like, that may legitimately kill my opponent. Like, I do not expect that they are expecting Ral Zarek here. Ral Zarek? Eh? World's most embarrassing win? 3 damage to your face? Show me Swords to Plowshares on your own creature? Oh. Oh. I'm just gonna go cry. That was unjust. That was cruel. Thespian Stage, Dark Depths coming. Ral Zarek dies in combat. Sure. Whatever. I'll top deck another Ral Zarek. No fear. Alright. Ooh. Everybody's coming to party. I'm gonna take 4. I'm at 9. I'm facing down Lethal from Dark Depths. Snapcaster Mage. I can Snapcaster Mage, Source of Plowshares, get rid of Merit Lage, if not for this. This does not deal damage directly to a player. This creature enters untapped. Stasis doesn't get me out. That'll do. GG's. Okay, I've got a weird one here, folks. I have Counterspell Protection. I can play Delighted Halfling on 1 into Uro on turn 2 if nothing goes wrong. Given that I have a Force of Will to protect little buddy if I need it, and the fact that I'm on the draw and have 2 looks at a blue land anyway, I think this is just fine. But this one very easily could go south. A Taiga, you say? That's a rare one. Never didn't have it, by the way. It's supposed to get Trop immediately anyway, so that I can like potentially brainstorm into fetch next turn. Probably, but it's weird because like then I potentially cut myself off access to red. This one can't get Volk. I'm gonna go for Trop anyway. Mana's not necessarily bad in this deck list, but I'm having to be more cognizant of it than I was expecting. Especially since the extra blue pips for maintaining stasis do matter. With my opponent leading on Taiga and passing, my guess is on their... Okay, I'm wrong. I was going to say my guess is that they are on a green-red Turbo Minsk and Boo initiative deck list, but now it looks like they're on some 3 to 5 color control soup nonsense. Probably like Leyline Binding is something realistically that my opponent might be playing. What are you doing? Petty Theft. Okay. I'll recast it. I'm good with that. Just ponder. I have a land drop for next turn. I don't have a land drop for after that. This would give me extra colors. I'm going to say this is fine. Gonna need another blue source somewhere. Hopefully it's Delighted Halfling. Let's bury Plateau and end up drawing Taiga and Ponder. And we'll replay Little Buddy. So opponent could have something like a Teferi come down here, which I would probably force a will so that my opponent doesn't shut off all my future counterspells and instant speed interaction. No white fetch there. Oh, okay. So the Brazen Borrower was not an indicator of just a control flex slot. It was an indicator of my opponent playing a Crashing Footfalls Cascade deck list. And my initial guess that we were playing against like a Turbo Red-Green initiative deck list was actually closer than I might have expected. So as we're a pseudo-control deck list instead of a true control deck list, we don't really... Oh man, is my one Supreme Verdict in the sideboard? Fuck, it is. Well, that's bad. Let's try to find some removal spells. There's a removal spell. Oh no. I don't have another blue to shuffle with Ponder. Okay, no, this is not great. Let's go 1, 2, play land drop. This Uro is now uncounterable, meaning that I get to draw through the first of those cards, put Plateau into play, and attempt to answer 1 Rhino. We now have 5 cards in graveyard for the purposes of Uro, and we've drawn through some of the crap off the Brainstorm. I was potentially supposed to just ponder that turn rather than Brainstorm. But yeah, this is kind of what I'm talking about in terms of the mana base here. And if I draw a Stasis, I don't have multiple blue to maintain it right now. Oh, how dare you? How dare you play good Magic? Yep. Let's see what we can do here. No. Shuffle. Yes. I can't flashback that Ponder because of how my mana works out. I take 4, 7, 8, 9. I'm on a 2-turn clock with no real live cards. Alternatively, I flash in the Snapcaster uncounterably, trade with this, take 7. That's still half my life total. I'll play one more turn of Magic. Can't even hardcast this Force at will despite having 5 mana. Okay, I think we have identified a deck weakness. In addition to like all of the normal weaknesses we have because of Stasis, our mana base is pushed a little bit too much. I'm going to hold Snapcaster in hopes of drawing Source of Plowshares and going Swords, uncounterable Snapcaster, Swords. Alright, if I play Endurance, I block Endurance. If I play Snapcaster, I block this, take 4. I guess I'm not dead. Actually, I don't think I'm supposed to do that. Let's go and fuck for legendary spells. Yeah, you know what? I'm out. Yeah, that does not just cast creatures. So, Fluster and Hydroblast are reasonable. Pyroblast does some stuff. I think I'm largely going to be fighting on the stack. I don't have the traditional sweeper count that a deck like this normally might. Stasis is a real way to hold off Rhinos. In addition to just like Swords, Snap Swords. Might go down a tiny bit with this package. Cosmic Rebirth seems a little slow here. I would cut 2 more cards if I play all of this. Teferi's very good in this matchup. I'm not sure from here. It kind of sucks that the Hydroblasts and Pyroblasts don't interact with the Rhinos favorably, but interacting with other things like Murktide Region and Minsc and Boo at a mana efficient rate does matter. I could go down on Endurances. That's not central to my deck functioning. I'm trying to believe in the Stasis this league and not just board those out. This is fine. I'm not thrilled though. Like, when my opponent goes off on turn 3 with a Force backup, I might end up having to like use 4 cards to answer 3 of their cards in a way that's not the greatest. Savannah, Brainstorm, not the perfect combo here. Feeling the mana a little bit. We could also just get Blood Moon, folks. Like, just throwing that out there. Alright, they are suspending Rhinos. They are coming. I don't think I'm going to fire off my Brainstorm immediately. I will do it on my own turn if I'm going to miss a land drop. Alright. This is going to get, I think, Tundra. I think it's very important to work towards Supreme Verdict. But this is a very scary turn. Because if I miss on this Brainstorm, it's over. Alright, I at least hit a land drop. I did not hit a red mana to cast forth Eorlingas next turn. I did not hit another cantrip. Never like pitching a Supreme Verdict, I guess. And then I'll just hide some card. Doesn't matter too much. What? But yeah, we were looking for like fetch land or ponder to just kind of smooth out the mana here. Yeah, I've got to fight over that, which means I break up the Stasis and Ral Zarek combo that was in my hand. Yeah, so saw this coming. I fight over it again. My opponent can force back one more time. The game's probably over. Seems like we've dodged. My mana was slightly different. Like if I had a basic plains, I could have let that resolve and then used that as mana fixing for 4th Eorlingas. But we weren't quite in that spot. Alright, how bad is it? Bad. So I know that this other Crashing Footfalls is coming. I think in theory I would try like to try and live to the point that Supreme Verdict clears up this second set of rhinos. So let's start paving the way. So we know exactly what our turn looks like. Take an 8 of the 10 power out of play. Yeah, the dream is rip a land to cast Supreme Verdict. I get 2 draws at that to stop Crashing Footfalls on curve. And then play 4th Eorlingas afterwards. And my opponent doesn't have something like a Minsc and Boo in play at that point. Alright, we've dodged Minsc and Boo this turn. 16 is perfectly healthy. Yeah. Hull Breachers in this build. So 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Not technically dead to the combat step next turn. Fuck yeah. 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm not dead to the combat step. I can let this resolve, take a shit ton of damage, and then hope everything's fine. But we are fully like F6'd. No ability to interact in this exact turn cycle here. So my opponent can do something sweet. I'm dead. Alright, we're at 4. Opponent didn't have Violent Outburst to kill me. Hold on now. Hold on. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't ice me. Cool. Supreme Verdict. Endurance? It's Endurance. This puts me to 1. This means I cannot fetch to play 4th Eorlingas. Oh. They did not eat my graveyard. They ate their own graveyard so that they put their Crashing Footfalls back into their deck for later, which is totally reasonable. Like, they can set themselves up for long-term success. I don't remember whether or not I showed them Snapcaster Mage. I don't think I did. Alright. That is Fire Ice. So, them tapping down my land or them going to face, both of those were just lethal. Although they didn't know it. I like the line that they took. Alright. Round 4. We haven't successfully cast a Stasis yet. We haven't successfully won a game of Magic yet. It's been rough, folks. We'll see what we can do. With the cards that we're looking at here, Doomsday is somewhat likely. Death Shadow is somewhat likely. Doomsday. Oh shit, they're fucking going now. So, I could counter this Doomsday. Or I could play the game of, can my opponent beat me? I think since Force of Negation is my only piece of interaction here, I am going to attempt to stop this. This card is potentially dazable right here. If this goes wrong, which it did, pitching Thassa's Oracle. So my opponent has to be on a 2 Thassa's Oracle build, which I'm going to assume that they are. Otherwise, they would have just let that resolve. I get Ponder to try to find something that will beat my opponent. Stasis is cute. Endurance is cute. Counterspells are reasonable. 4th Eorlingas is probably too slow. Which build are we looking at here? Days build with main deck. Veil of Summers. Are there the tutors? Yes, there are personal tutors as well. Alright. Good enough. So my opponent has potentially built a Cavernous Souls pile that just beats counter magic, which is not the greatest for me. I'm still probably looking for the counter magic. Well, Endurance is hot. I probably accept Endurance and Tundra here. Yeah. I made a mistake, though. I'm supposed to stack that so Endurance is one down so that a discard spell can't take the Endurance this turn. That's an error on my end, which is somewhat likely to be punished, honestly. Yep. I'll take mistakes you wouldn't make when you're not streaming and narrating your plays for 500. All right, Endurance is down. I am going to immediately shuffle away some of these bad cards. Stasis is interesting. Double Swords to Plowshares isn't super interesting. Let's throw back. My opponent gonna tap mana? Like, am I going to get them with Stasis? Since I'm so land heavy, it's probably okay to do that. Pitch 1 Swords to Plowshares. Play this and pass. Alright, let's grab a Tundra. Be holding up the possibility of Swords to Plowshares. And I need to hold up Snapcaster Brainstorm for right now. Sure. Okay. So this is the turn. With Cavern being there and 0 cards in library, Swords to Plowshares doesn't work anymore. There's nothing that I can brainstorm into to stop this. No dress down. No dress down. At least not main deck. That'll do. But I punted this one, honestly. Like, I won this game if I did the thing that I talked about with the Endurance. Okay. I like Dress Down and Fluster. Pyroblasts are fine. Torpor Orb is actively good. I think that's 6 cards that I'm looking at. I don't think I want Surgical to shuffle Doomsday Piles. Stasis, I feel like, is probably unreliable in this matchup. Like, as we saw in that game, there was a turn where, like, in theory, shutting off my opponent's lands was good, but a lot of times they'll just play a multi-turn past the pile situation. So I think all the copies of Stasis have to go this time for, honestly, the first time. Prismatic Ending also not particularly good in this matchup. That would be these 6. But that does leave me with Swords to Plowshares, which I'm, like, not the most happy about. So I'll probably do a swap like that. Like, the Meltdowns and Cast into the Fires are all eh. Is Stasis better than Swords to Plowshares? Like, Swords is very bad. Like, the only time Swords does something is when my opponent is going for a Thassa's Oracle kill with multiple cards in library. Cosmic Rebirth's pretty bad. Wow, actually, is it? It's a way to get back a Dress Down. JK. Alright, fuck it. We're believing in Stasis. Someday, we will put a Stasis into play. This has an Endurance. It has an Uro, a Ral Zarek. I am going to hope that Ponder can sculpt this game in a meaningful way. Probably start on a Trop here. Go to 19. And we're pondering, probably looking for Counter Magic or Dress Down, which we did hit. We'll hold the Dress Down on top, not make the same mistake as last time. Sure. Are we going now? Oh, it might be. Good God, they are turn 1-ing again. Understood. So if I were the opponent, how would I be building my pile? It probably involves Cavernous Souls and 2 Thassa's Oracles. And 1 piece of discard to play around the Dress Down. Alright, it's happening. Let's see if there's anything particularly spicy. Carpet of Flowers is expected. Abrupt Decay is not unexpected. Don't see Caverns, don't see Thassa's Oracles. Seems like my read is approximately correct. Oh. Are you going now? Going now is possible. Okay, no. But they could have gotten like a Force of Will or something. I don't want the card under this. Let's play a land and pass. I've got 2 pieces of interaction, which may or may not actually be enough. Yeah, there's the Thoughtseize. There's a weird line that I could do. where I could cast my Dress Down, pitch cast Endurance to put a 3-power attacker into play. I don't think that's better than actually just having the interaction, though. I think I'm going to make my opponent take the Dress Down. I don't know, the Endurance line isn't crazy, you know? Ah, fuck, a second one. Do I just turn the Dress Down into a new card and let them take one of these? That second Thoughtseize is really annoying. Puts them to 4. I'm going to take a redraw with the Dress Down. Grab a Tundra. Oh, maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. Like, I just force them to take this. I can play Uro and an extra land drop on my turn, and then I can draw into a Force effect to potentially stop a cantrip or something. I don't know. Like, next turn, there's a decent chance it's just Cavern into first Oracle. Okay. I mean, that's interaction. That's something. Puts me to 21. I hit a land drop and pass. I can attempt to fluster something, and Ral Zarek or Uro kills in 2 turns. Uro needs 1 attack step. Okay, we're not going yet. These don't stop Thassa's Oracle. Ral can minus twice, right? Yes. I think I'm going to Ral and put my opponent to 1 and potentially stop my opponent from hardcasting a Force of Will. Green, green, blue. It doesn't matter as long as this is blue. Ral. And I think doing this is better than holding up 2 counter spells. Alright, 3 damage to face. Opponent's at 1. I have 2 slightly different pieces of interaction, neither of which stops Cavern of Souls Thassa's Oracle, which my opponent is going to do this turn. Yeah. Damn. At this point, we're 0-4. I would like to at least attempt to cast a Stasis. Let's play with the last round out. I've got a pretty awkward hand here. I think this one just has to be a mulligan. The mana doesn't quite work out. Opponent has revealed Yorion. I'm keeping this, getting rid of that. I think I need to block out some of the light. Hold on. All right, much better. We'll hold up a Swords of Plowshares for turn 1. We could be playing against a Death and Taxes style decklist. We could be playing against a, blue pile O cards. Trending towards blue pile O cards. Not necessarily clear yet. Hello? Tundra? Okay, I mean, I can play this on turn 3. I'm going to try not to be wastelandable in this next turn cycle, if I can avoid it. And we've got something we can gamble the game on. And given that my hand is clunky, I'm down a game, and we haven't won a game in this entire league yet, I have become a gambling man. All right. Swords to Plowshares or a counterspell stops this right now. Let's draw Force of Will. Fuck yeah! Call your shots, folks. Call your shots. Here we go. Here we go. All right, this has to be white mana. That is Tundra. 4th, Eorlingas. All right, it's in play. We have the Force of Will for the Swords to Plowshares that is almost certainly coming. All right. Force of Will, pitch Uro. Please. Please. I need this. God damn it. Hey. So, gamble failed. A happy dance has retreated back inside of me. I will concede if my opponent plays their own 4th Eorlingas and becomes the Monarch. Okay, no fetch into 4th Eorlingas. Great. This is an instant, just checking, right? Yes. And this, unfortunately, does not get back my good card. Okay, my opponent's missing a land drop, which is great. Land drops matter. However, I also just don't have gas. All right, I gain a little life. Pseudo Uro effect. I mean, Teferi's cool. Oh, I do have to fetch here. Again, mana. green, green, blue. This just needs to be blue. Shouldn't need red, red for any reason. Let's grab a trop, I guess. Shouldn't need white, white in game 1. Let's attempt to ferry. Yeah, I was expecting a response. This is like a great hard cast Force of Negation spot. Is it happening? Oh. So this means my opponent is on beans. That's very cute. I'm going to ask them how that card has been. Oh, that was the first time they cast it. Alright, Yorion goes to hand. Oof. So I'm off white now. Okay. I'm not going to be able to Swords to Plowshares that Yorion, but it's not like my opponent is turboing that out anyway. They've been messing land drops. They're on 3 mana still. That means their hand's full of gas. Or, well, okay, I should say they missed a land drop because they wastelanded me and set us both back. I also just haven't drawn the One Ring this league yet, have I? Haven't gotten to... I mean, we haven't gotten to do much of anything. Like, I've been a goddamn punching bag today, folks, and that's all there is to it. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I know what I'm doing when I sign up with Stasis, but I did expect slightly better than this. Let's not play around Snapcaster Mage. I think it's more important to just play something at the end of turn and give my opponent minimal time to adapt. Another Wasteland. Opponent not firing it off immediately. They might fire it off after I play this and just take out this Taiga. They've got a Life from the Loam in their deck. I am like very scared long term. I like this Endurance because it takes a Lorien revealed out of graveyard for something like Mystic Sanctuary later on. Alright, my opponent thought about it and then let Endurance hit play. Am I... Oh, I am losing the Trop. They're taking me off of blue mana for cantrips. It didn't particularly matter in this case since I top decked another land. I guess I was thinking like so heavily about the red because like 4th Eorlingas is such an important card in this matchup. Like that I was willing to go all in on it on like turn 3, so that's why I was valuing red very highly, but I think my opponent was probably right to go after Trop. Like that. Yep. A greater portion of the time probably is damning. So my opponent draws their card. Force of Will is late to the party. I don't have 4 different lands to Prismatic Ending the One Ring. So my opponent gets to draw at minimum 3 different cards out of it. Which is pretty good for 4 mana. And people are happy doing that for 5 mana with Lorien revealed right now. My opponent's 2 Wastelands looking good. Yep. So now we are seeing like the large creatures off of like that are there because of the bean up the beanstalk doing some serious work. Blue, green, red, white. Am I on basics? I get the basic, it doesn't work towards Uro. I hope that's fine and get the basic. 1, 2, 3, red, 4. Let's attempt to yeet the ring. Fuck. We're dead. So my opponent now has a lifelinker in play that gets to offset the life loss for the One Ring, the One Ring's next turn cycle. And they can also just like draw 3 cards, play Yorion, Mystic Sanctuary, Force of Will on top. I think this is the point where this game is over. Like I can pretend to keep playing, but like we're buried, folks. I think I know when to toss in the towel. Let's try one more game, see if we can put a game win on the board. That's our current goal. That's all we're hoping for. So Cast into the Fire answers the One Ring. Pyroblasts are definitely good. And then like there's some situational things like with Dress Down that like can maybe be okay. I guess yikes, am I playing this? I don't really have many answers to the bean, huh? Like it's a Prismatic Ending or bust situation. I could Stony Silence. If I do that, I shut off my own copy of the One Ring, which has been a traitor and not gotten to get into play. Okay, well, let's start the other direction. What don't I want? I can probably go down a couple copies of Swords to Plowshares. I'm just like I'm not a fast combo deck. I'm not very good at defending my combo. In theory, in a lot of these control mirrors, like to get rid of my Force of Wills, but I don't think I can board into a good enough control deck that I'm on even footing with my opponent with like Yorion and Up the Beanstalk. So I think I'm keeping my Force of Wills to protect a potential Ral Zarek Stasis combo. That means this one's not great. I'm trying to keep all the copies of Stasis so I can just cast one of the damn things in this league. Check off that box. Cosmic Rebirth can probably go. My opponent gets rid of a Stasis, they're exiling it, not putting it into my graveyard with something like discard. Maybe this is too narrow. I board out a Swords and do something like this. I forgot the Fluster. Shit, my bad. This is fine. This gets to start the game on a bunch of basics unless I decide to aggressively Pyroblast something. Yeah, let's just make some land drops. If I don't have to Pyroblast something, which I'm not necessarily expecting to, like I'm not gonna just like Pyroblast going for a Ponder, hoping to steal a game that way. Like this just represents. Okay. I don't know. I kind of need red mana. I might not be able to just deploy 3 basics here because I now have 3 different red cards in my hand. Wasteland's a thing though. I have to make the call right now of whether or not I want to play around Wasteland this game. I know my opponent has at least 2. Let's just brainstorm and try to smooth things out, and then I can make that decision. Okay. Let's get rid of the removal spells here. Let's keep the lands and the Ral Zarek and keep this dream alive of actually doing the Stasis thing with Ral Zarek. Let's fetch a green now. Forest? Would I like to just cast a Ral Zarek? Like, is that just a thing that I do? Just as a bait spell here? I don't know that I do. I think I'm just going to take a redraw from an Uro here. Off 3rd basic. Like, I don't know that I want to just cast the Ral Zarek into open Force of Negation mana. Yeah, that's fine. I don't think I fight over that. Okay. Snapcaster Mage. Snapcaster Brainstorm is reasonable to get rid of Ral Zarek number 2. I'm gonna Pyroblast that. Just gut feeling. Feels like a good thing to Pyroblast. My opponent hasn't played a lot of spells in the first few turns of the game. Like, this is turn 4. Prior to that, they had only cast 2 spells. Especially with Snapcaster Mage, just, like, on backup. I think that's fine. Alright, I really like the Halfling here to turn the Ral Zareks into uncounterable cards, and then hopefully we find a Stasis and do the thing. We have the correct play patterns to potentially Stasis. We'll see if it works. That's an Omnath. Let's try to say no to that cleanly. We can Pyroblast that if Snapcaster resolves. I would Force of Will here to protect this. I think that Omnath just overruns me. Yeah, I fight over this. Force of Will, pitch 1 copy of Ral Zarek. Do I get to do the thing? Real awkward. If my opponent has another Force, then I go down 2 copies of Ral Zarek. That is not the case. Alright, Snapcaster Mage, target Pyroblast. Counter Omnath. Excuse me, I think I muted the mic in time there. Ral Zarek Stasis? Ral Zarek Stasis? Stasis Ral Zarek? So I play Ral Zarek for 4 mana. I can untap something and play Stasis, but then I can't pay for Stasis. So I have the Stasis lock next turn. Ooh. Delighted Halfling mana, please. Red, blue, some other colors. Let's do this. I think I just attack with Snapcaster Mage and then untap it. Opponent's at 17. I'm gonna tap your Leyline Binding. Untap Snapcaster Mage. Now it will be very tragic if I have to Force of Will pitching the Stasis after trying so hard to assemble this. God damn it. Why can't I have nice things, huh? Why can't I have nice things? I have been trying so hard. No! No! Goddamn logic not. Yeah, and if I untapped a land, like, that doesn't change anything here. Rough. Did not get any points of damage out of Ral Zarek. Now? I guess now. Let's target the Brainstorm. The reason to do it now rather than waiting is my opponent hard casting in Endurance. These cards are not good. I'll redraw Force of Will next turn. I mean, at the end of the day, I do have 5 power in play. It is worth something. Oof. We are probably like one Supreme Verdict or Terminus style card away from death. Even a Solitude is just really bad, right? Like, play a land drop, exile a Snapcaster Mage, block another one. God, another Omnath. That's rough. So it's 4 life the first time. It's 4 mana the second time. And Omnath cantrips. Mystic Sanctuary gets back Logic Knot. Sure. Lorien. My opponent has just drawn 3. My attacks are bad. My next card is a dead card. My opponent has Logic Knot, so when I get a reasonable spell, it doesn't get to resolve. If my opponent plays another aggressive thing, I just think I scoop it up and call it a perfect 0-5-0-10 league. Yep. Attempt to Force of Will. We'll see if it works. It does work. Again, though, next draw is a dead draw. Opponent's also at 21. We've got some problems. Sure. And this life loss is so much. Not worth floating the mana. If my opponent has something like the One Ring, they'll just play it in second main if I float. Sure. Alright. Let's find something to do. Okay, opponent's saying no to the Ponder with Logic Knot. I can pay 4, so they have to exile 5 cards from graveyard, which they did. Yeah, and I haven't seen an Up the Beanstalk yet in these games, but like it's certainly in my opponent's deck, and at some point that thing hits the field, and just yikes when that happens. All right. Attempt to remove Omnath, Locus of Mana. Sorry, that one's Locus of Creation. The mono green one is Locus of Mana. It was one of my first commanders. Another Wasteland. I think at this point, like with being wastelanded with 8 power in play, with my attackers invalidated, we can call this an 0-5-0-10 perfect league. So obviously that one didn't go well. And we weren't expecting a Stasis League to go well, but that was an unmitigated disaster. When I was talking with Brian when White Plume Adventurer got banned, we both agreed that White Plume getting banned was probably the death knell for Stasis. Stasis was an archetype that had been dead for a long time, and White Plume Adventurer brought it back. But we are never probably going to get something again that just checks all the boxes the right way, like White Plume Adventurer did. So essentially today, we were playing a 4-color control deck list that had its hands behind its back. So as a starting point, you have 6 slots dedicated to the Stasis package, and I'm going to call it a 7th because a single copy of the One Ring is a nod to Ral Zarek rather than more copies of this being played just to like be a One Ring deck. And I'm also going to count Cosmic Rebirth here because that's your way to rebuy Stasis. Like, paying 3 mana for what is essentially an Uro trigger is not really going to be worth it in this deck list most of the time. So today we were playing a 4-color control deck list that had 8 suboptimal slots. And like we saw Ral Zarek just being able to be answered with a Hydroblast or a Pyroblast being really rough, right? And the mana requirements of this deck list were really tough. Delighted Halfling doesn't produce true colored mana for things like 4th Eorlingas or Stasis. And that mattered. Like, a Stasis Ral Zarek turn, in theory, requires a lot of blue mana. Playing Stasis as a tempo card, requires multiple untapped, literal blue sources. But when you start taking a look at the mana base here, a handful of these lands don't actually help you maintain a Stasis. And when you have, like, Boros, Simic, Azorius, green, blue as things that you're thinking about early on, in addition to wanting like both potentially like blue, green, and white on turn one, your mana's tough. So I think this hit an overlapping point of rough mana and Stasis being a handicap to the point where we just didn't fire on all cylinders. And that was rough. The deck list looked okay in theory, but in practice, we were too slow for combo, we weren't grindy enough for the mid-range matchups, and we had a hand behind our back for the control matchups. So if you ask me, what is Stasis supposed to be good against? Like, what's the answer? Bad decks? Like, when your opponent signs up with, like, grindy mud prison, you maybe have enough time to assemble Ral Zarek Stasis, but it didn't work out today. And that's okay. I will say, this was an enjoyable 05. I played games of Magic. It looked like I was doing things that mattered, but we just couldn't quite put anything on the scoreboard here. Now, some of these things were certainly my fault. Like, I messed up an endurance thing that maybe buys me one game win versus Doomsday, but I don't know that we get a second game win versus Doomsday, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I think Stasis is dead, folks. And that's kind of where we're at. Regardless, I hope you all enjoyed. If you end up wanting to pick up any cards like Cosmic Rebirth for your Stasis deck, check out Cool Stuff Inc. Use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. See ya!